You're listening to the Paul Higgins podcast for SaaS consulting partners ready to scale beyond six figures without more work or a bigger team. Let's dive in. Your clients are sitting on a gold mine they don't know exists. While you're optimizing their CRM workflows and email sequences, prospects are ignoring 90% of those messages. But those same prospects replied to texts within 15 minutes. Hello, I'm Paul, and welcome to my podcast, the Paul Higgins Podcast, and this is episode 627. The problem? Most consultants haven't figured out SMS for their clients, SMS or text. They know how it works, but don't know where to start or how to integrate it into existing systems. In this episode, I talked to Chris Brisson from Sales Message, so it's Sales MSG, about exactly this problem. Chris has bootstrapped Sales Message into an eight-figure ARR business. He spent 15 years building, actually it's 16 years, building marketing systems, and he leads the Tech Size for Your Business methodology. What I'll do now is hand you over to Chris Bison from Sales Message. Chris, brilliant to have you on the show.
Awesome. Super excited to be here.
SMS, text, for me, I think it's the unforgotten art of helping people progress to a result when you're selling to them. You know, we tend to still over rely on email and LinkedIn. I'm certainly talking from a survey of one myself, but others, I see the same in others. For you, like, who do you love to work with in helping them explore the great world of texting?
Yeah, I think one of the cool things, I've been in texting and messaging since like we were talking before, since 2009. So I've been in this for a long time. I've seen a lot of messages. I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. And what is always surprising to me, even today, is businesses come in and either they've tried texting before or still doing it, or if they're brand new, they're just shocked at the fact that people actually reply. We help companies use messaging for sales team, marketing team, customer support team. And at the end of the day, you have calling, you have email, and you have SMS. And those are really the three sort of main channels. And so calls, people aren't picking up today. Email, we all know, the open rates and click-through rates and response rates on email. Amazing channel, but it's just not as effective. And then SMS is sort of this, the ultimate dream of really the engagement side. And so when a company comes in and maybe they've had a landline phone for 10 years, 15 years, and it's only been calling, and you can turn on text messaging. And the moment they turn it on, they realize, oh my gosh, have been trying to text me this whole time. And so there's this asset that's already existing in the business that they just haven't been exposed to. They turn that on, people are texting, and now it becomes this channel that was always available to them, but they just didn't know how to turn it on. And more importantly is when you text people. So let's say a lead comes in your traditional way, maybe calling and emailing, but when you text them, people are open to reply. They will reply. From a consumer's perspective, texting is the channel where they have control, where they can reply when they want to, and it just is this channel that is still open. And when done right, I mean, it really creates great connection, engagement, and moves a lot faster down, whatever process, sales process, engagement process, a customer service engagement. There's so many amazing things with SMS, and I'm doing it a long time, so I've seen a lot of the ways to use it.
How much of it is outbound versus inbound? Like, I'll give you an example. My local doctor. If I want something from my local doctor, it's a nightmare. I've got to call them. I've got to wait. It's like, I just don't want to do that, right? I want to send them a quick
Yeah.
text. Like, is your platform covering both? And because you said that, you're not just across sales, it's sales, marketing, and customer service and ops. So, yeah, is that a reality of how it works today?
Yeah. So, the other day, my wife called me and she's like, you got to listen to this. Call this number real quick. And so she's always out in the world looking on how cool ways companies are using calling and texting. And I forget the name of the company, it might have been Chewy or something, but you call and one of the prompts is, hey, press one to text us. And so it's just this redirection of how do we get people to that are willing to talk, but then there are people that are willing to just text and maybe they don't want to sit on hold for 15 minutes.
Yes.
Then SMS sort of becomes this fallback channel. So, but there are times where I actually want to talk to somebody. And so you still have that, right?
Yes.
But when you need to just text and communicate over SMS, that channel is available. So we've got a framework. It's called Textize Your Business. And so there's a couple things with that. So one, like we believe conversations are good
Yes.
for business. The more conversations you can have or open yourself up to, that's going to lead to more meetings, more revenue, more growth. One of the ways to create the conversations, well, one of the best methods is through SMS. And so the way in which that we help businesses create more conversations is through the framework and the methodology called Textize Your Business, very similar to HubSpot and inbound marketing, right? Their methodology with that. Textize Your Business is you can add texting or messaging across the entire life cycle. So everything from lead generation to engagement to qualifying to capturing data to booking meetings to reminding of meetings to driving revenue, to getting feedback, to getting reviews, to
Yes.
getting referrals, right? So everywhere a tiny little text can play a big part in the business. One of the big problems people have is how do you engage with new leads that come through? Fill out a form, send a text message, and immediately you get into a conversation. And so the idea of speed to lead is, well, how do we do that? The rep's not calling, this and that. And so speed to lead goes right to an SMS. That is the method from which you can instantly get responses. It's this aha moment. The other thing too is, most people, well, I shouldn't say most people, but attendance to an event or to a webinar or to a meeting or to a demo, there's always a no-show problem. Tiny little text message can increase and boost that attendance. One of the cool things that we like to do is just keep it real and conversational. And so if me and you, Paul, we were going to go and grab lunch the day before or the morning of, I'm going to send you a text. Hey, Paul, are we still on for today? Because
Yes.
I don't want to show up and you didn't show up, right? Or you forgot or whatever it is. So it's just that tiny little nudge, but using real normal language really makes a big difference. I think one of the problems people have is they sort of take this marketing approach or this marketing hat and say, oh my God, I got to apply the same marketing copy and all that stuff to a text. And the more simple you make it, the higher the response rate. So I like to say, drop the marketing jargon and just be real, right?
Yes.
There's a place and space for that. But those are the best sort of texts.
And is there AI in the platform that's helping come up with the messages, or are they all user generated?
Yeah, so we have AI built into it. A couple sort of AI features that just make it easier. So you may write a text message. We've got an AI feature like, hey, rephrase it, make it simpler, make it friendly. And so you can sort of spin it to make it more friendly. Got that. Got some really cool like AI agent stuff. One of the challenges with SMS, especially if you're doing a lot of conversation, is, oh my gosh, what if I get all these replies? Who's going to manage it? I don't have a team. And
Yes.
so we have an AI agent that you can feed it your knowledge, right? So you can feed it information about your company, upload documents, get your website. And so you could feed your brain, right, essentially, and your AI agent can respond 24/7 in your voice at the right time and capture data and push it to Salesforce or your CRM. And that's a great way to sort of scale, like without adding additional human sort of capital to ensure that that experience where a customer wants a response, it's not relying on a human. And now you got AI to sort of augment those conversations.
And how do you, I guess it depends where you are in the world and where you're listening, an SMS or a text, they're sort of, interchangeable. From an unknown number, you sort of look at it on your feed and you think an unknown number, should I open this or not? Is there any tips and tricks in how to get around that, or is that just the reality of SMS?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all around one, it's consent, and then it's context. A lot of folks think, look, I've been in business for 20 years. I have my customer list. I want to text them. And the reality is like one, that's spam, that's illegal, and no one likes to get that. It's like, dude, I did business with you 7 years ago. Why are you texting me? So if anything, it's a detriment to the relationship and the goodwill that you may have built. when somebody requests information, they fill out a form, it's a Facebook lead, or it is, a customer going through sort of your own journey, and the handoff within that context really matters. Relationship is most important. So there's the right way to do it. But then there's, the bad way, which, and the carriers know, look, I mean, the carriers are very similar to the way Google is managing your email, and they're getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And first of all, you have to get approved to send text messages in the United States, Canada. It's not just everybody can get a number and start texting. That was the past, but not anymore, because
Yes.
they want the integrity of the channel to remain like good.
Yes.
Marketers ruin it all, and so they don't want people to ruin it. Context matters, timeliness of those messages at the point of that conversation, that lead form or web form. That's where that initial conversation can get started.
Great. And you talked about integrations into SaaS platforms, CRMs. So I know that you integrate into
Yep.
HubSpot, Salesforce, ActiveCampaign, Pipedrive. Are they the key ones that you're integrating, natively integrating in at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a phenomenal integration inside of HubSpot. So Sales Hub, Marketing Hub, Service Hub, we use HubSpot ourselves, and every day that I'm using HubSpot, I'm like, oh my gosh, we should integrate here. Let's do that. Oh, that'd be really cool. So we're users of our own tool. We use HubSpot. So we went really, really, really deep. It's one thing to say, yeah, we integrate into these tools, but then you get into it's like, oh, that's a really light version. We have, I would say, one of the best integrations inside of HubSpot. So you can integrate it into workflows. You can do ringless voicemail. You can do text messaging. You can, send AI messages, create contacts, unsubscribe people, really manage it. So if you're a small company and you need to sort of just automate texts, and you can send and receive text straight from HubSpot on the contact record, deal record, company record, any workflow. So it is very versatile. You can also do calling through, you can do power dialer. So it's very deep in there. Everything gets logged to the timeline. Everything can get, distributed through reports through HubSpot. And same goes for Salesforce as well. So the same sort of love and care around like building a really good integration, we carried over to Salesforce, and we carried over to Pipedrive. We put a lot of attention to make sure, hey, what are all these nuances that a sales manager, a sales rep, a marketing team, a customer support team, I need it in tickets, I need it logged, make sure that the call being recorded, shows up on this, and we can use HubSpot's intelligence, so it's like there's so many nuances to it. Unfortunately, HubSpot provides a great API, and those APIs become new products, new features, and
Yes.
and, and our roadmap is full of a lot of HubSpot stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah, great.
yeah.
And just a reminder, we're listening to Chris Brisson, episode 6 to 7. And Chris, what happens if you're not one of those? I'm assuming Make, Zapier, there's integration platforms that you can still integrate into sales message.
Yeah. I mean, our Zapier integration is really tight. I mean, again, it's not a light integration. Like I'm a product person, so I look at those. I'm like, hey, we need to add this to like, the payload, or, with Make as well. So it gives a lot of flexibility, whether it's trigger action, there's a lot that you can do with it. So very, very, very versatile, not just a simple integration, if you will.
Yeah, great. And from a partner perspective, so if I'm a HubSpot partner listening now and I want to implement it into my clients, what sort of knowledge based, how do you help them better understand your platform to then work with the end client?
Yeah. So, one of the things is, look, you have an agency, you have clients. How do you easily sort of manage clients from one system without logging in, logging out? We have sort of an agency portal. So you can see all of your clients. You can add a client, you can manage that client, you can assume them and sort of set things up. We also have the ability to sort of create, a snapshot or a template of a client, or an account. So maybe you're, let's just say, in the chiropractic space, and you've got the perfect setup for a sales message account, and you just need to sort of clone and duplicate for every other client. So we have sort of this template approach to where, hey, in one click, I can add a new client and, hey, use that template account. So it allows for easy scale, because, one of the challenges is like, oh, I got to start all over, build this account out. So a lot of those agency things, we built into the product from an agency. We work with a lot of agencies, and so they're onboarding their clients. And the way that a lot of agencies really sort of built that out is they again, sort of through this little audit process, what's the primary use case for your client? And maybe it is, hey, we have a lead engagement problem. Awesome. Let's start to use text messaging. And how are we going to round robin those leads to the sales rep? So there's 5 people in the sales organization. With HubSpot or with Salesforce, we sort of match that ownership. A lead is owned by Bob in HubSpot or in Salesforce, then we can outbound that text message from Bob. And so any responses that come back, Bob can sort of manage those replies. So we try to make it very tight in the fact that the systems that are built on the CRM match how sales message will work, and sort of scaling out the team. And we call them inboxes. So an inbox could be individual, but it also could be a shared inbox. So you have a team that can manage those replies and assigned over. So, we like to think of it, whether it's a small company or a large organization, whether you need one number or 100 numbers, or, you want to send one text or a million texts, so it's a very scalable platform
Yes.
given the team or volume or phone number or country or whatever it is. So agencies can sort of plug and play and easily set it up within sales message and then match the CRM setup.
Great. Great. So let's dive into a couple of, case studies of how to use it. So first for you, right? You're targeting, SMB mid-market clients. How are you using it in your sales go-to-market strategy at the moment?
Yeah. So for us, one is we have our phone number on our website. And
Yeah.
so, for a while, the team's like, oh my gosh, we don't want people calling in and doing that whole thing. So, and I understand, right? Because are we fielding support? Are we fielding sales? How are we going to approach this? And so we sort of went back and forth. But ultimately, is we have our phone number on the site, and that is a lead gen opportunity. So
Yes.
either new leads are going to call or they're going to text us. We've got an IVR system. And so people call in, press one for sales, and we push people over to SMS. That goes into an AI agent, which can qualify or just start that conversation with that person. That's a way that we're sort of catching traffic. And
Yes.
so I just like to see all these different ways that how do we catch this traffic and convert them? Like that's a simple one. When somebody starts a trial, right, we engage them over SMS. Hey, thanks for starting a trial. Are you mostly interested in texting for yourself or for your team or whatever it is, right? And we're just sort of greasing the chute to create this conversation to get to that next stage. Now, we don't send a text to everybody, but qualified folks who want to book them to a meeting or what have you. When somebody books a demo, they, again, we're going to instantly engage with them with an SMS. So there's all these sort of, hooks within that we're just adding a simple little text message. One of the things that we have is, an AI agent, and we built a customer support AI agent. And what that does is people want to or can text in to answer customer support issues. And so not that it's a high use case thing, but it's like, how do we textize our own business in order to sort of, add messaging across the life cycle? So, some interesting case studies. So a friend of mine recently, and funny enough, is like this is an old strategy, but people forget really good strategy. And he was speaking at an event in front of 150 folks. And as a speaker, his job was to, hey, how do I convert the audience into leads? One of the simple mechanisms is, I was at an event recently and everyone's taking pictures of slides, right? And so if you think of every slide as like a lead gen opportunity, some slides or pictures are going to get a lot of people wanting to take a picture, some not so much. And so if you can, in your presentation, create these sort of picture moments with like a little QR code across your banner, I like to call it like a lead banner, you can take that audience and convert them into a lead. What Trevor did, he runs a company called Carrot, and he just had a QR code and he had, hey, text me at this phone number. And people would text the number. It would go right into sales message, AI agent. It would capture their name, their email, and then bam, now he's sort of through a simple automated conversation, captured a lead. And ultimately, he got about 100 leads from that. So huge conversion rate, captured leads. All these people are his target audience. And so now you go, man, that cost me, I don't know, a couple bucks. And it turned into 25,000, 50,000 of lead value. And like that's a phenomenal simple use case. So any speakers out there, if you're doing an event,
Yes.
take that simple approach and you can start to capture leads that way.
And Chris, is the are the forms within your platform, or are you using, the forms that are in the sales CRM?
Yeah, so most people are using HubSpot form,
Yeah.
Salesforce form. So we don't play in the forms world. Why? Everyone does a great job of that. We just
Yes.
integrate it into those tools. Although we do have, we have a web widget. So similar to like an intercom chat, we have a web widget. Many customers use that. And so how do you, again, take visitors, and convert them into that? We've got an intercom integration. So if you're using intercom, you can use sales message as well. One cool strategy is this was years ago, Grant Cardone on social media, they use sales message. And so, one of the things that I saw on their stories was, hey, swipe up to text us right now. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And you swipe up, and then it just opened up my SMS app, pre-filled with the phone number, pre-filled with the message, hey, I'm interested. And all I had to do was click text. And then bam, it just instantly started a conversation. So it's like, well, how do you take, viewers from social media with click to text or swipe up to text and instantly turn it into a real conversation? And you just put it through an AI agent that can manage all those responses. So I'm like, man, there's so many areas in that we're already doing. Like we already have all these assets from an order form. You're already capturing a phone number. What are you doing with it? Right.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
now you can build, that asset the same as you're building an email list. Now you can build a text message list and use that as again, a channel to connect, communicate, drive revenue.
And as a default opt out, how does that
Oh yeah.
work?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's nothing, there's no craziness about it. But typically, we've got a whole sort of TCPA compliance platform. What that means is, look, just like can spam for email, same similar regulations apply to SMS. So people can reply stop and get unsubscribed, right? You can manage unsubscribes and do all that stuff. But that's all built in and super simple. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You briefly spoke about ringless voice messages,
Yeah.
right, or mails. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean the concept of ringless voicemail is, voicemail as a channel has traditionally been sort of left behind, right? You talk about the ultimate left behind.
Yes.
My voicemail inbox is full. The idea where ringless voicemail came from is, look, if people aren't picking up the phone anyways, well, let's just deliver the audio message and get right to it, right?
Yes.
And so ringless voicemail is a technology that will just drop an audio right to a mobile phone voicemail. It's not going to ring through a phone tree on like a landline, and it just will drop an audio right to voicemail. So when you need to get a message delivered, hey, here's a way in which we can drop a voicemail audio right to some of the voicemail. So it's another unique way. And surprisingly, it works really well because ultimately what you're getting at is either A, I want to deliver information, or B, I want to drive a callback. Through sort of a callback way, we have a way to sort of measure, hey, if I send out 1,000 voicemails, and what's the callback rate? Oh, 10%, 15%, right? And that can push to a call center or to an IVR or whatever it is. And so it's just another mechanism to deliver a message and get a response. And it's cool. It's built into HubSpot as a action. It's built into Salesforce as an action. So, we actually got, so you have a ringless voicemail, but then you have a ringless drop. So one of the things for our calling platform is, when you're calling a lot of people, you get a voicemail 9 times out of 10,
Yes.
you don't want to sit and wait. So you just drop. So we have voice drop. So when you're doing a call, you just go drop it and then move to the next call, drop it, move to the next call, drop it, move to the next call. And so now you just create this more efficient way to one, sort of power dial, and then from a messaging or marketing approach, like drop a message.
Yeah, great. And as far as the sequence, does it matter? Should it always be text before voice, or is voice before text? Like, what's your experience with that?
Yeah. Look, I mean, people are still going to pick up the phone. It's sort of like this permission approach, right? Like I remember reading Seth Godin's book long time ago, permission-based marketing, right? One interesting thing that a way to sort of handle it is like, look, when you call somebody, they don't know the number. But when you say you're going to call them in 5 minutes, you
Yes.
open yourself up to the opportunity to increase the chance that they'll pick up. So when you start out with a text, hey, can I give you a call in 5 minutes? Yeah, yeah, okay, great, awesome. And so they're waiting for your call. So you're
Yes.
getting permission to actually get to the phone call. So
Yes.
text becomes this sort of approach in the beginning. You can actually get that phone call picked up, right?
Yes.
Or you call them and be like, hey, I just gave you a call. Is now a good time? Or when would be a better time to connect? Or hey, are you available at 10 to 3? Whatever it is. But permission is way better than sort of non-permission because a phone call is an interruptive thing. And people are just conditioned to not even pick up anyways.
There's 160 characters. What's your advice on how to structure it? Let's say you're doing that pre-call or whatever the scenario that works the most. How should you do it? Should you put your name first, their name first? Like, is there, you've been doing this for 16 years. What's
Yeah.
your quick take on how you structure that SMS?
I mean, simple is better, right?
Yeah.
And the most beautiful sound is somebody's name,
Yeah.
right? So, personalization at the simplest form is like just say the name, right? Hey, Chris. Hey, Bob. Hey, Paul. Paul, just give me a call, whatever it is, but using their first name is the best. Now, I think when you get too AI-ified, like people are like, oh God, it's so ChatGPT, like just stop, right? At
Yes.
least in the MarTech space, right? Like maybe some industries like, oh my God, he knows everything about me.
Yes.
But, simple is better. And so keep it real and conversational. In fact, that's like one of our core values. Like, how do we just keep it real and conversational? When you make a statement, right? So if you send a text like, hey, thanks for confirming your appointment, great. There is no request or open loop that you're creating to get a response. And that may be the objective. You don't want any sort of response.
Yes.
However, if you want a response, well, ask a question, right? And so I like to say, sort of in that first outbound message, again, if somebody fills out a form and you want to continue the conversation, you can ask a simple binary question, right? Hey, thanks for filling the form out or whatever. Are you interested in residential or commercial real estate? Oh, right. And so you just sort of make it easy for them to reply quicker, and then you can sort of ratchet it up from there. But you just want to make a simple response so they could reply easily. And then you can sort of, go from there. Ask a question if you want a response. If you don't want a response, don't ask a question. And just text the way that you text a friend. I think when you get a little too marketing-ish, right?
Yeah.
People are turned off by it. And that's when you mention, it's funny, like when I tell people, oh, you run a text message software company, like, oh, you're the guy that sends me those texts. You're the guy that sends me the spam text. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm the guy that sent you that reminder about your doctor appointment for you to show up on time. Oh my God, I love those texts.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So it's like, the people think that of the negative parts of SMS, but then they realize, whoa, that's a delighter on
Yes.
those types of messages.
Just a reminder that we are talking to Chris Brisson from episode 627, and it's sales message. It's sales MSG, but the actual full.com is salesmessage.com, and it'll be in the show notes. As far as the platform play, so email depends on the software, but you've got open rates, you can track it. What capability is there for SMS or text?
Yeah, in SMS, like there's no open rate. So people like as a marketer, like, what's the open rate of a text message? Well, the truth is there is no like way to text, like to track an open rate. If it is a valid mobile phone number and you deliver it, so it's around a deliverability. And typically it's a 98% deliverability, meaning, hey, if I've got a list of, let's say, 100 mobile phone numbers, and I send a text, pretty much everyone's going to get that text message. It's not like an email where you've got the HTML pixel and now you're managing open rates, all that stuff. 98% open rate. And some of the stats are, within 15 minutes, about 85% of people open it, read it, it gets read in that sense. When you need to get a message out there, like you're going to rely on texting. So, good example. The other day, we had furniture delivered and I got a text message 2 days before saying, hey, we're going to be delivering on Thursday from 8 to 10. Awesome. I appreciate that. Now, if they didn't do that and they were relying on calling me, I wouldn't pick up the phone and
Yes.
I wouldn't listen to the voicemail. And then
Yes.
they would attempt to show up at between 8 and 10. And guess what? No one would be there. It's such a simple thing that, wow, you add convenience, right, for the consumer. But then for the business is like, how do you reduce the friction? How do you ensure that you're at least getting it back? And you can maybe say, hey, confirm, right? And you can build some of those more automation responses built into it. But and you can do those things. Hey, when you send a broadcast, let's say 1,000 were sent, 95% were delivered. And then through click tracking, you could track clicks. So, hey, we got a 25% click-through rate.
Yes.
And then we actually have conversion tracking inside of sales message. So if you want to track conversions, not only for the amount, so hey, you had 5 conversions, but you can also pass in the revenue. So those 5 conversions resulted in $15,212.47, right? So you can track everything from the send to the click to conversion and then the revenue amount. And that's all sort of built in. You can build all that in there.
Yeah, great. And I think if you're listening to Chris and you haven't explored this part with yourself to get more clients, that's definitely an opportunity. But also therefore your end clients as well. And I think, especially if you're a HubSpot, if you're a Salesforce and a Pipedrive, I think it's, the native integration's brilliant, but also, as Chris said, with Make and Zapier, etc., it's also extended across other platforms that you may support with your clients. What we're going to do now, Chris, is take a short break, thank our sponsors, and then we're going to come back for the rapid fire. Brilliant execution, terrible strategy. You can solve any client problem, but you're stuck in the same revenue patterns, same deal sizes, same time for money trap. I'm Paul, and I built and sold a 7-figure consulting business, but here's what I've learned mentoring other consultants. The real breakthroughs happen when you combine my experience with live problem solving of people going through exactly what you're facing now. In my group program, Steve works through his VA delegation challenge with Jed. Jed shares what's actually working. Andrew tests his pricing strategy with Casey, and Casey demonstrates his client onboarding system. Everyone's figuring it out together with my guidance based on what I learned the hard way. It's not theory, it's real-time strategic thinking with consultants in the trenches plus someone who's already made the journey. Stop grinding alone. Start thinking strategically. Go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/WWM. That's paulhigginsmentoring.com/WWM. So, Chris, ready for the rapid fire?
Let's do it.
All right. So what's, we're all talking AI at the moment. What's an AI tool that's really impressed you of late?
I just started using Claude and some of this MCP. So if you're on X, you're sort of getting a front end seat, to all the crazy nonstop world that's happening with AI. But yeah, I just, integrated Claude with Grain, which is what we use
Yeah.
for call recording and prompting on all of our Grain recordings and giving our team feedback around their calls. It's really cool.
Brilliant. And what do you think is, other than text or SMS, which I think is very much an underrated channel, what's another underrated channel that you're seeing working out there at the moment?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn, honestly, I mean, as a B2B marketer and just in the marketing space, LinkedIn is pretty amazing. Not only from like a direct messaging communication, one of the cool things I'll do from time to time is do a LinkedIn audio and just send a voicemail note.
Yeah.
And that works really well. But, you have the organic side of LinkedIn and, being consistent with those posts. I've seen some pretty great relationships get built through that, but also some really good deal flow. And just the key is consistency. And that's always the hardest part. But LinkedIn.
And where do you go to learn more to grow your business?
Oh boy. I feel like I'm a X. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of great stuff on X. And so my team, I'm probably a fire hose of like great ideas. Or
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
I don't know if they're great ideas, but a lot of ideas.
Yes.
X on the forefront of AI. There's so much good stuff. And there's also a lot of startups that are just coming out and like they're doing unique things that we're not doing. I was talking to a guy earlier, he's a little bit older, and he's like, oh, text messaging for my generation's not there. I'm like, you know what? TikTok for me is like foreign. But for the younger generation, these guys are crushing it with TikTok and influencer marketing. That's foreign to me, the same way that text is foreign to the older generation. So
Yeah, I got to say, I've got an addiction to TikTok, and I put a timer on now just to limit,
You
because
have
most of
to.
it is me learning about AI, so then I can help my clients. So yeah, it's incredible. The last one is, you've been in the texting game for 16 years now. What do you know now that you wish you had known earlier?
It doesn't have to be that complex.
Mm,
I think like I come from the world of creating these super complex marketing systems and the if-thens and this and that. And I won Infusionsoft Market of the Year in 2013 a while ago. And it was because I built these sort of complex engines. The problem is I was the conductor
yeah.
and I was the only one that can like turn the wheel. And I was like, whoa, that as much as it was a thing of beauty, it was also I couldn't get out of it. When we were building sales message, I'm like, it's got to be super simple. How is it simple? Keep it simple, I think, is just easiest approach. If you want to add complexity to it, sure, but man, it makes life a lot easier when you keep things really simple.
Yeah, and it's like anything, when there's too much of one thing, you want the other. And at the moment, there's just too many AI generated messages where, like you said, you can sniff it out, and people just want the simplicity. And I think that whole trust and relationship is becoming more and more important. We're all talking about it, being
Yeah.
human in a world where, we're constantly seeing stuff that's not created, it's not created by us. Right. So I
Yeah.
think 160 characters definitely helps with that. And I think
Hmm.
some of the tips that you've shared today has helped as well. So I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have all the links in the show notes so that you can get in contact with Chris. But yeah, thanks for building a great product that interfaces into core platforms that help both, you out there listening and also your end clients.
Awesome. Paul, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
What a great interview with Chris. Your clients are losing deals, playing in crowded channels while ignoring the one that gets responses. This is a opportunity is absolutely massive. Be the advisor who introduces the channel that transforms lead conversion and reduces no-shows. Start with one client. Pick someone with lead flow problems. Show them what's possible when people actually respond. You can find out more about Chris at Sales Message. So that's sales, MESSAGE.com. And you can watch this episode on the Paul Higgins Mentoring channel on YouTube. I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins podcast. If you've got value today, hit subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and reach out. Let me know you've listened. I'd love to hear from you.